3.
Hi bakers, I'm Ellen. I am not a professional baker. My kitchen is a mess. My husband is filming this. I have no idea what we're doing, but I just want to show you why it's so much easier to use a scale. So I'm going to show you what I do. Okay, so first of all, I have 3 Zojirushi Virtuoso Plus machines. One is running right now with banana chocolate chip bread, and I'm about to get Zo number 2 ready to put things in this pan. So I'm using the recipe for just basically cinnamon raisin bread right from my Zo manual. And the first thing it calls for is water, but it also calls for dry milk. I rarely use dry milk. I have it in the cupboard just in case, but I prefer to use regular milk, and I like to use lactated milk because, you know, one of those things, you get it. And so I just use the same amount of water or milk instead of water. So I'm going to turn on my scale. It does say grams. I'm going to put the measuring cup on. Press tare to take it to 0. And then I'm going to measure out 300 grams. Watch how easy this is. You just pour it in. Hopefully you can see the screen. Oh, 300. Wow, check me out. I am so awesome. Okay, so milk going over there. And I'm going to pour that in my bread pan because with my machine, liquids go first. Okay, and in the manual, it has the right amount. So now I'm done with that. The next ingredient is bread flour, 520 grams. So I have a little flour in here I'm going to dump back in. It's not dirty or anything. So I put the bowl on the scale. Again, hit tare. Now, if you don't think this is easier than using measuring cups, personally I think you're crazy. 520 grams. You never want flour to be packed down, and so even when I'm weighing, I still sprinkle. So I gotta go to 520 grams. Can you see the scale? And can you see how I'm sprinkling the flour? Okay. And yes, I'm messy. My husband can attest to that fact. So close. Okay, look. Oh no, I went over by 5 grams. Guess what? Very gently lift up what you think is about 5 grams. Oh, still another 2. Lift out some. Gotta do a teeny bit more. It's so easy to be accurate. Oh, it went back up to 1. I usually wouldn't worry about it, but I will take some out. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to put the bread flour in. Notice how I sprinkle back and forth because I want all the liquids covered up. Now, notice that I put the bowl that I weighed in on top of my canister because guess what? After I make this loaf, I'm going to do another recipe in my 3rd bread machine. So you know what? Then I don't make as many things dirty, which is another reason I do this. Okay, my next ingredient is sugar, 36 grams. I have these little silicone cupcake cups. You don't have to use that. You could use a little Pyrex custard cup like this, whichever. 36 grams is actually a lot, so it may not fit in there. I'm going to do that. I'm going to hit tare to take it to 0. Open up my canister, double check 36. Okay. Slow down toward the end. I'm at 35. There we go. 36 grams. Done. And when I'm measuring my ingredients, I have a routine that I follow just so I don't drive myself crazy wondering if I put something in. So I always put sugar on the right of the flour. Honey, can you zoom in where you can really see? Can you see in there? Okay, I always put the sugar on the right. And then again, I'm putting this on top of my sugar because then I can use it for the next time. And the next ingredient would have been dry milk, but I'm not using it. So the next ingredient is salt. and I need 10 grams of salt. So I'm going to use this, hit tare, and I'm going to get 10 grams of salt in here. I'm on the 9. Oh, there we go, 10 grams. And then I always sprinkle the salt on the left. There we go. Okay, and again, I'm putting this on top of my salt because I'm going to use it again, and that way there are less dishes made dirty. Finally, 2 grams of cinnamon. Still at 0 now. For me, 2 grams of cinnamon, which is 1 teaspoon, no way, not enough. So I have 4, maybe a little bit more. No, still 4, that's okay. All right, so now that I'm done with my cinnamon, I'm gonna sprinkle that in off to one side. Okay, maybe I'll use cinnamon again in the next recipe, maybe I won't. I don't even know what I'm making next recipe. Okay, so the next thing I need is unsalted butter. I never use unsalted unless it specifically says unsalted. The Zojirushi recipes all say unsalted, and then they add in the salt, more of the salt separately. If a recipe doesn't say unsalted butter, you normally would use regular butter. That's just a normal baking rule, at least in this country. I think it differs in Europe. Okay, so I need 35 grams of unsalted butter. I'm using this bowl. I'm gonna hit tare to make 0. 35 grams. I'm just gonna take a guess. Starting point. Oh, a little off, 45. Okay, I'm gonna take what I think is about 10 grams off. We'll see how good I am. Oh, look at that, 34, woohoo! Okay, and I always, if it's a small amount of butter like this, I don't cut it up. But if it was like a whole stick, like if I'm making brioche or something, I'm making a lot more butter, I might cut it up. And I always take the butter and put it on one side, like that. On one side, doesn't matter exactly, but I don't put it in the middle because there's something important that has to go in the middle, and that is the yeast. So I'm going to make a little well in the middle for the yeast. And that's where the yeast goes, because it shouldn't be touching anything but something dry. It shouldn't touch the butter because that's wet. Can't touch the milk you can see over there on the side. Probably wouldn't hurt it to touch the cinnamon, but this is what everybody does, and this is what I do, and it's always successful. So I need 6 grams. So I'm going to tare, which means 0 out. Must be a French word, I don't know. So 6 grams of yeast. There's 4. Oh, nope, there's actually 2. Okay, perfect. And I'm going to pour it in the well. Now, for cinnamon raisin bread, the raisins go in at the beep, which is about 30 to 35 minutes after I press start. My machine has a rest cycle, which is basically the same thing as preheat, and it brings all the temperatures of things to room temperature. The butter, I take right out of the refrigerator cold. The milk, I take right out of the refrigerator cold because my machine has this function. If your machine doesn't have a rest or preheat, where it waits and slightly warms your ingredients, you're going to have them at room temperature, but you probably already know that. So, I am ready to put this in the bread machine. I'm going to use the dough cycle. You don't have to, but I just like to control the shape of the loaf, and I think the crust is better when I use the dough cycle and put it in my own baking pan to rise and bake in the oven. That's just what I do. So I'm going to take this over to my bread machine. I should have opened the lid. That's okay. I'm going to put it in there. I'm going to go snap, snap. I'm going to plug it in next. Sorry for the mess. Like I said, I'm a messy cook, but I have fun. I'm going to do course 11 for dough. Press start, and it says rest. When it beeps and it says add, that's when I put the raisins in, which I'll get out in a few minutes. I have one more thing to show you. And that is how to measure if you are going to use measuring cups. I'm not going to put it in anything. I'm just going to show you how much easier weighing is now that you've seen it. When you measure flour, you never scoop, ever, 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 because you will have compacted flour, which will not be the right amount. What you do first in your canister or in wherever you have it is you fluff and you fluff and you fluff. Now, I'm going to, and I'm messy, so watch out. This is a 2-cup measure. I'm not going to use it for anything. I'm just doing this to show you. Never pour it in low. You want to sprinkle from a few inches above so it stays fluffed. Okay, not there yet. Get a little more. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. Sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. I should have taken a 1-cup measure. All right. Oh, this is going to go on forever. Almost done. The canister is almost empty, which isn't helping matters. Okay. So you want to sprinkle more than what you actually need. I have to get a spatula. Sorry, folks. Back in 2 seconds here. Of course, now I can't find the one I want. There we go. Okay. The longer the better as far as I'm concerned. Now, I have a little bit less on one side, so I'm just going to take and don't push down, just very gently skim the spatula off of the top. And that is a perfectly measured 2 cups of flour. If I just scooped it out without fluffing the flour, you would have more flour in there because it's you can press it down. Look, and I haven't lost that much. Look how much, you could have another 1/4 cup of flour if you scoop it. So that's how to, if you're going to use measuring cups, that's how to properly measure flour. Sugar, butter, not as important, but for flour, because it can be compressed, you really, really need to sprinkle, 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 and fluff, 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 or actually fluff, 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 and sprinkle, sprinkle, sprinkle. Get a scale. It's not even $30 on Amazon, and it's so much easier. Now, all of these measuring vessels that I've used, I can use for the next recipe. So I tend to make 3 loaves or recipes of dough at one time. Dinner rolls, breads, whatever. I make 3 at once. I'm a baking maniac. My kitchen is a tornado, but then I'm done and I don't bake again for maybe 4 or 5 days. Okay, thanks for listening. Bye.